Hey there, BookTube. Thank you for coming back to my channel. Today I'm just sharing with you the books that I've read in the first half of the year, so consider this my mid-year wrap-up. First book I read this year was Lord of the Rings by William Golding. I gave that a 4 stars, even though it was kind of more like a 4.5. Mark Twain, I read Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by him. I also gave that a 4.5 stars. Anyway, my third book was Ali Hughes by Jules Moulin. I gave her 4 stars. I read NetGalley by Michael Cohen called Rethink It. I gave that 4 stars. And my fifth book was Wildflower by Drew Barrymore, which was a part of her memoir, and I gave that 3 stars. So those are my first 5 books. Book 6, I read Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I gave her 4 stars. The next book was 24 Keys That Bring Complete Success, Paul J. Meyer. I gave him 4.5 to 5 stars. Book number 8, Smartest Kids in the World by Amanda Ripley. I gave her 4 stars because she did a whole series of discussions about how education is different in different parts of the world and how American kids are affected by our teaching styles. Book number 9, I read Jojo Moyes, Me Before You. This was not the copy that I read. I purchased this for a book signing so that I could get Jojo Moyes to sign it herself. But this was my first Jojo Moyes book. This was my introduction to her. After that, you'll notice that she comes back a lot on my reading list because I fell in love with her writing. For this, I actually, in the beginning, I gave it 4 stars, but I have since upgraded her to 5 stars. The book left such an impression on me. I think that it deserves more than 4 stars, so I've given her 5. After I read Me Before You, I then went on to another Jojo Moyes book. I read 1+1, and I gave that 5 stars because I guess at that point I could start to see the trend. Here I read Intentional Living by John Maxwell. This was the first nonfiction that I probably put into my collection in 2016. It was a fantastic read. I got it kind of autographed by Mr. Maxwell himself. It's one of those stickies that they use at signings when you go to their mastermind classes. No complaints. This is a fantastic book, recommended to everyone. My next book was 90-Day Improvement Plan, which was also by John Maxwell. It was a very small book with tips on how to rethink, reshape, improve your life in 90 days. I gave that 5 stars. The Last Letter from Your Lover by Jojo Moyes. I gave that 4 stars. Next, I read This Is Where I Leave You by Jonathan Tropper. I gave him 4 stars. Then I went back to Jojo Moyes and I read 2 more of her books. I read After You by Jojo Moyes. I gave that 4.5 stars. Since you can't put 4.5 stars, I actually gave her, I think, 4 stars on Goodreads, but it was more of a 4.5. And then I read Girl You Left Behind by Jojo Moyes. I gave that 5 stars. Next, I read A Scattered Life by Karen McQuestion. This book was the first book that had only been released as a Kindle ebook that was optioned for a movie. Then I read Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. I gave that 4 stars. I went on to do some nonfiction. I read Wealth by Jason Wachob. I gave that 4 stars. It was about how to improve your life so that your wealth is not just financial, but in your personal development. I gave that 4 stars. I thought it was a great read. Then I went on to read NetGalley, The Forgotten Room by Karen White. It was my first Karen White book, I think. It was about 3 women in different generations who had all they're all related in some way, and the book kind of flipped between lives and times, and it was a little confusing, so I gave that 3 stars. I actually intend to read the complete version because I thought it had a lot of promise, and I reached out to Karen White and she followed me on Twitter, and I thought that was so great, so that kind of bumped her up in my estimation. And so I'm planning to read The Forgotten Room, the actual hardcover, sometime. Then I read a series of 3-star books. I read Why Diets Fail by Nicole Avena. I rated that 3 stars. I read Days of Awe by Lauren Fox. This was fiction. I gave that 3 stars. And then I read Sheltering Rain by Jojo Moyes. This was one of her earlier books, which was not refined, and I kind of regret, but I had to give that 3 stars. It was more like a 3.5. I gave that 3.5 stars because even though you could see the foundation for her wonderful writing, it wasn't as complete as her later work. And so Miss Moyes got her first 3 stars from me. Sorry. Next, I read a series of 4-star books. I read The Number Devil, Hans Magnus Unzenberger. This was really about explaining math concepts to maybe younger children. I really enjoyed reading it, but I also used the lessons to help me tutor some kids that I work with. For that reason, I gave it 4 stars. I read Eleanor Park by Rainbow Rowell. I gave that 4 stars. As you remember, I've been trying to read all of Rainbow Rowell's books. That was my third of her books that I was reading, and I really enjoyed it, so I was happy to rate that 4 stars. Then I went back to some nonfiction. I read The Art of People by Dave Kirpin, and this was about how to build communication skills and how to get things from people by having better relationships with them. Really wonderful read. I got this free in exchange for a review, and so I really appreciated that because I really liked the book. Gave that 4 stars. Then I read some 5-star rated books, some finance books. First, I read The Business Secrets from the Bible by Rabbi Daniel Lapin. I gave that 5 stars. I moved on to The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. It was a very short book. I really recommend it to everybody, how to understand better their relationship with money and the power of money and what to do to build wealth. I just read it, so I'm still learning, still applying those principles to my own life, but I feel confident in recommending it to other people. So I gave those 2 books 5 stars. Next, I read Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn by John Maxwell. I also gave that 5 stars because I think that had some fantastic lessons. Then I read 3 books that I rated 4 stars. The first was fiction. It was Other People's Children by Joanne Trollope. I read The Little Red Book of Selling by Jeffrey Gitomer. That was a nonfiction about, how to sell. The Little Red Book of Selling. I gave that 4 stars because even though the information I thought was really, really great, the language was not very professional. It was written like a conversation. So I gave that 4 stars. And then I read Beth Wiseman's Summer Brides, which was a collection of 3 novellas in a book. I gave that 4 stars. Next, I had 2 nonfiction reads, both of which got 5 stars. The first was Get Smart by Brian Tracy. That was a fantastic read, 5 stars all the way. Then I read The More of Less by Joshua Becker, which was about how to live a better life by just getting rid of some of the things in your life, not just decluttering so you can have bigger space, but decluttering so you can live the life you really want. It was a small book. I also got this for free in exchange for a review. So that was fantastic, and I've added it to my collection. Then I read Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, which I rated 4 stars on Goodreads because it's not possible to give a half star, but it was really a 4.5 stars. So I guess if I was going to round up, I would have given it a 5 stars. But Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, I gave that 4 stars, just to be consistent. Next, I read some 5-star books. I read Write That Novel by Karen McQuestion. Then I read 3 nonfiction books in succession. First was The $100 Startup by Chris Guillebeau. And it's about how to start up a new business, an online business or something with a very small startup cost. And I thought the information in that was great. I gave that 4 stars, even though it probably deserved maybe a little bit more. I got that copy from the library. I ordered a copy for myself. So when I read it, I might give it more stars, but right now it's at a 4-star read. Then I read Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy, which was short and concise. I didn't really have any problems with it except that it was short, and I felt like he could have added a little bit more, so I gave that 4 stars. Then I read Son of Hamas, which is a memoir by the guy whose father is one of the leaders of Hamas, who then became a Christian. And I gave that 4 stars because, the writing wasn't perfect. It was memoir style, and I didn't completely love it, even though I really liked reading it. I read Malcolm Gladwell's David and Goliath. I gave that 5 stars. Most of the Malcolm Gladwell books that I've read so far, I've given them 5 stars. You'll see an exception coming up later. Then I read Remember My Beauties by Lynn Hugo. I got this for free in exchange for a review. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 4-star rating, even though it's a pretty short novel. There were some things in there that I didn't absolutely love, and so I gave her 4 stars. Then I read What the Dog Saw by Malcolm Gladwell. This was my first Malcolm Gladwell book that I didn't absolutely love, and so I gave that 4 stars because I thought it was a little bit of a departure from his regular writing. Sorry, Mr. Gladwell. One of my rare 3-star books, Exposure to a Millionaire by Anne Menke. I got this for free in exchange for a review. It was a novelized version, I think, of this lady's life. She was a stewardess, and the book is about a stewardess who works on a millionaire's private plane. And the book read like it was a journal, except it was supposed to be a novel, so the writing style wasn't great, even though the story, I thought, could have been developed into a better book. And so I gave that 3 stars. I read a book called Talk Like TED, written by Carmen Gallo, who is the guy who studies all the TED Talk presenters and shares their information, shares their presentation styles in a way that you can emulate and copy and build up your own presentation skills. I gave that 5 stars. I didn't have any problems with it. Then I read Not Working by Lisa Owens. That was a novel, gave that 4 stars. It was okay, it wasn't perfect, 4 stars. Then I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, which is a nonfiction memoir style. Robert Kiyosaki sharing his tips with how he took lessons from the 2 men in his life, his 2 father figures, what they taught him about finance and how he has used those lessons or ignored those lessons in order to become the person that he is today. So that I liked a lot. I gave that 4 stars. Then I read The Rosie Project by Graham Simpson. I've already told you all about that. I loved it, thought it was fantastic, thought it was hilarious, laugh out loud funny. I gave that 5 stars. No surprise there. I read 3 nonfiction books. They were all 4 stars. First was Originals by Adam Grant. Then I read Jessica DeLulu Herron's book. It was called Find Your Extraordinary. I got this for free in exchange for an honest review. Then I read Living Forward by Michael Hyatt and another writer, I can't remember his name. It was about how to plan your life, which I thought was a little macabre, and I didn't completely love it, but I gave it 4 stars because I thought the information was pretty good. Then I have 2 5-star books. The first, One Last Thing Before I Go by Jonathan Tropper. Then I read The Art of Creative Thinking by Rod Judkins, which was a small book with just like lessons from very successful, very prolific artists and writers and musicians, and really great book about creativity and how to improve your creative life. So that was my first half of 2016. Those were the first 52 books that I read this year, and I am looking forward to completing my challenge on Goodreads. I've set a challenge of 100 books for 2016, and I'm halfway there, a little past halfway, so I have good momentum. And as long as I keep on, if nothing untoward happens, then I should be on track to completing that goal. I'm looking forward to it. So tell me, leave me a comment in the comment box down below. Let me know what you're reading. Let me know what you have on your list for the rest of the year. Are you on track to meet your challenges? Are you on track to meet your goals? Thanks for watching my mid-year wrap up. Have a great day. See you later. Bye.